Campus Pressbox, episode number 47. Almost forgot it there, and we were just talking about it. Today, it's me, Mike Wilson, your Pac-12 senior writer, joined by Mitch Gatsky, otherwise known to me as the Michigan Mamba, but he is our Michigan man. He is one of our editors at Campus Pressbox, and he also is in charge of our pipeline articles during the college football season. So he is a man of many talents, but he keeps his talents in Michigan instead of South Beach. So, Mitch, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Starting to get a little sick, but I'm hanging in there. I'm going to pull through.
You're going to pull through? Yeah. That's just the way you roll. I know. It's your cross to bear, right? All right. Let's start talking about college basketball. College basketball is the big thing in sports right now. I mean, baseball is just starting up. The NFL is done with their silly little combine thing. And the NBA just really hasn't got into their second season yet. So it's college basketball's focus right now with conference tournaments and the big dance, the NCAA tournament coming up. And lots of things going on in every conference. But let's start with the Big Ten, buddy. You live in Big Ten country. So what say you about the powers that be in the Big Ten?
Well, it's a bit of an unusual year for the Big Ten. It's a bit of an unusual year for college basketball as a whole, I'd say. Looking at the Big Ten standings, you've got Indiana at the top with a 14-3 record in conference. They're still undefeated at home this season. Independence Hall is one of the tougher places to play in all of college basketball, and they're proving that this season. A couple weeks ago, they got a big win over Purdue in a rivalry game there. Coming up just behind Indiana is the always dangerous Michigan State Spartans. They are 11-5 in the conference, and you never want to count out a team coached by Tom Izzo. He's always got his team where they need to be come March. Then you're looking at Maryland, Wisconsin, Purdue, Iowa, and Ohio State. All also have 11 wins in the conference. Purdue's only lost 7 games all year. Maryland has lost 6. The Big Ten tournament is really shaping up to be one of the more exciting tournaments, I think. You've got a lot of teams with a legitimate shot at winning the thing, and you've got a lot of teams who are looking to make their mark and really boost their resume and get themselves into the big dance with big performances in the conference tournament. So I believe the first round starts March 9th. So we're a week away now, and that week is going to disappear quickly. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't leave out the spoilers. They're going to ruin a team, one of those teams in the middle that's trying to, like you said, make their mark to get to the big tournament. So, who do you think? What's your view on Indiana? Or, I mean, I watched them the other night. I believe they were playing Iowa, and they took Iowa down. And are they a legit team in terms of maybe getting to the Elite Eight, or are they one of those teams where it's maybe the max is maybe a Sweet 16 bid?
It depends on how they shoot. They are a team that I wouldn't say they live and die, but they rely heavily on 3-point shooting. And if it's a good night from beyond the arc for the Hoosiers, chances are they're going to come out with a win. If they're not shooting so well, then chances are they're going to lose. I've seen them come out and play great defense. I've seen them come out and play, a little lackadaisical on the defensive side. I think in a conference tournament where they're not going to get a home game, it's going to be difficult for them to string together enough wins to win the conference tournament and go deep into the big dance. I'd say, just off the top of my mind, not knowing much of anything right now, as far as matchups or anything are concerned, I'd say they're good for 2 wins and make it into that second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
So make it to the round of 16 then. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a safe bet.
Safe bet. Okay. What about Michigan State? And I've for the longest time have always been a big believer in Izzo, and he just gets, like you said, he gets his teams ready to play when the lights are the brightest. And he always seems to, and he may not even have a team that is extremely talented, but he gets his team ready to play, and somehow, some way, sometimes they get their way into the round of 8, then they get to the Final Four, and it's just always, to me, Izzo, there's just something about him that gets that team of his ready to go. Since you live up there in Michigan, what is it with Izzo that just, I don't know. I can't even explain it.
He's a winner. I think when it comes down to it, he's just a winner. He's proven that he knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's been doing it for I don't even know how many years. And he's gotten to the point where he doesn't really need to say much to recruits. We talk about it a little bit with Nick Saban in football. He can just go to recruits and say, look at what I've done. It speaks for itself. Why don't you come be a part of something great? And Izzo, like you said, he may not have the most talented team, but somehow he can maximize the talent on his team and get them to play the system that will not only help them win more games, but also get them ready for tournament time. He's a big believer in defense first. Just about every game they win the rebound battle. And it's not really about one guy. They do have Denzel Valentine, who's at the beginning of the season, he was hyped up as maybe a player of the year candidate. He's underperformed a little bit this year, I'd say. And they've got other guys like Bryn Forbes who have stepped up and just been lights out from beyond the 3-point line. But overall, it's Izzo's team. And you know that it's going to be a certain brand of basketball that they're playing, and it translates very well into the NCAA tournament. I think they are poised for a couple wins as well, and depending on matchups, depending on how Forbes is shooting the ball, they could work themselves into an Elite Eight, possibly a Final Four spot. Again, you'd have to see the matchups, but Michigan State, this is their time of year.
Yeah, they always seem to be around the trophy. You just never count them out. And all of us fill out brackets. If somebody tells me, I don't fill out a bracket, but I watched the tournament, I'm like, okay, Pinocchio, whatever. Yeah. But when I'm filling out my bracket, Michigan State at the very least is going Sweet 16 with me, and so. And it's like you said, Izzo is just, to me, he's kind of like Saban. I agree with you with that. There's just a certain trust factor that I think people have become, easy with Izzo in terms of getting the team to where, they're going to make some noise. Now, you had mentioned Wisconsin as well. Wisconsin went through a coaching change after the first week or the first game or before the first game or something like that. Are they a threat to win the Big Ten tourney?
I think they might be. It's been a weird year for them, up and down season, and they're another one of those teams. Kind of like I touched on it with Indiana. They're much more consistent, but as far as Wisconsin is concerned, they're just not very consistent. They're up and down. They have some good wins, but also some bad losses. And you're looking at a 19-10 overall record. They might be one of those teams that needs at least an appearance in the conference championship game of the tournament to
get in.
Not make it into the tournament. I think they're pretty safe as far as that goes, but as far as getting a favorable seed so that they can set themselves up for a deep run in the tournament. Right now, I'd imagine that they'd probably be on the lower end of the bracket, an 8 or lower. But you get 2-3 wins in the Big Ten tournament, they could be looking at, a 6, 7, somewhere in there. So I think they can win the tournament, but the Big Ten tournament, but they're going to have a lot go their way. I basically don't see them running through 2 top seeds. They're going to need an upset somewhere along the way
to advance much further than that. Okay. I mean, is this seems like more of a year of transition for Wisconsin, going from, who was their head coach? What was it?
Bo Ryan.
Oh yeah. Bo Ryan. And I mean, let's face it, they did lose some talent to the NBA. I mean, they lost Decker and I think the point guard and everything. So yeah, I mean, this just might be that. Yeah. Frank the Tank. Yeah. And so this just might be that year of transition. Now we'll see what this new guy is all about. I think wasn't he like a Bo Ryan protege?
I think he was. Yeah, it was one of those guys just came up through the program and they kind of hired from within. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of turnover there. But anytime you get rid of a coach who's been there for so long and had such an impact on the program, there is going to be a bit of a transition phase. And I think we're going to see that play out here in March and early April.
Now, let me ask you this, only because I know you're a huge fan of them, Big Blue. And I'm not talking about Kentucky, but Michigan. What's their season been like? What are their outlook? What's the outlook for them for the conference tournament, and do they even have an NCAA tournament chance?
It's been rough. I'll say that. They again, consistency, injuries have been a big part of their season. They've been playing without a full complement of players just about all season. It's either Derek Walton's been sitting out or that's the first one that comes to mind, but there have been other injuries as well. The problem for me is that they don't have a post presence. They've got some guards that have some game, but when it comes down to guys down low, they just have bodies, really. There's not a playmaker who's going to get the ball on the block, make a couple of moves, and get you 15 points. There's, I guess a void there. I'd say if there is a void in the team, it's most certainly down low. Karis LeVert also, that's the other name I was trying to think of, who's been struggling with injuries. He was pretty highly touted, and people were talking about him being one of a top pick in next year's NBA draft, but he's really done next to nothing as far as impressing scouts this season. Michigan recently has been on a real rocky road. Just last Sunday, they lost at Wisconsin. They lost at Maryland a couple weeks ago. They lost at Ohio State a couple days before that. So they too have troubles going on the road. But I think Michigan, people keep saying they're on the bubble and maybe they're one of the last 4 in. I think they need to get a couple of impressive wins in the Big Ten tourney to really solidify themselves as a tournament team, or else they're going to be looking at an NIT bid, and really nobody cares. If you're not in the NCAA tournament, nobody's paying attention to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you make the NIT and it's like, okay, yeah, we're the first loser. Hello, kind of deal. And it's, like you said, who cares, really? So so bottom line, who wins the conference tournament in the Big Ten?
I got to go Michigan State, just because you know what you're getting. We talked about it. You know what you're getting with a Tom Izzo coached team. All these other teams have big glaring weaknesses that can be exploited, and I think Tom Izzo and his bunch will be able to do just that and get a Big Ten championship. With that being said, if you want to pick another team to watch, I'd definitely go Maryland. They can light up the scoreboard. They've got a whole complement of players who can wow you. starting with Melo Trimble, Jake Layman. They've got
that Trimble can play.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the players. It's just a matter of getting them all on the same page on a night in, night out basis so that they can rack up consistent wins.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go with you only because for the same reason you mentioned. There's just that trust factor with Izzo that his guys are going to be ready to go. And, you know, like you said, I mean, Valentine may have underperformed a little bit this year. I don't know if the expectations were a little too high for him or what the deal was, but I something just tells me Izzo's going to have Valentine and his guys just ready to go and have all this momentum going into the tournament. So let's turn our focus to the Pac-12. Okay,
let's go out west.
Let's go out west, shall we? Now, in my opinion, and I don't know, you may disagree with this. I don't know. The Pac-12 is to me. I mean, it's not a big dominant basketball conference right now. There are no really kind of like wow players that everybody goes, oh, I got to go watch. You know, I got to go watch Utah play because of that guy or Oregon because of that guy. But what they have, it sounds like, is a lot like the Big Ten. They got a bunch of teams that they just beat up on each other. And it's kind of like the football thing with the Pac-12. They just beat each other up, and, you know, they may disqualify themselves come tournament time. But and here's the other thing that's been bugging me with, you know, people out west here are going, yeah, there's like 8 teams from the Pac-12 that are going to get in. I'm like, 8 teams? I mean, there's no way. You got Oregon, you got Utah, you got Cal, you got Arizona, and you got Colorado and SC. So I think that's like 6. Okay. Yeah. And SC right now, to me, is kind of the bubble team. They're 8-8 in conference. They're 19-10 overall. They got smoked by Cal their last game out. They play Oregon State their next game, which that game for both those teams, I mean, if Oregon State wins that might be something that propels them, you know, possibly into the big dance. But, you know, it's still, they'd be on the bubble to me. I'm not sure how Oregon does. They're leading the conference. They're the highest ranked team in the Pac-12 right now, but they're a bunch of skinny guys that are very athletic. They can all jump, but I don't sit there and go like there's one or two basketball kids. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I mean, when I watched them play Arizona State, it just seemed like a bunch of athletes out there. Instead of like basketball guys. But they can play. I mean, they're 12-4, they're 23-6. They're going to make the tournament. They're going to do well in the conference tournament, if not win it. You know, I mean, I don't know how much you've seen Oregon play or any Pac-12 team play this year, but they are talented. I just, when it comes down to it, and you got to have like a low post presence, like you were saying with some of those Big Ten teams, Oregon has big guys, but they're not wide guys. They're not guys where they can get a low center of gravity and, you know, muscle it up and bump you off the post or any, you know, those type of things. Mitch, you could probably move most of those Oregon guys, post guys off the block with your pinky.
I got some post moves. If
you got some post moves, okay. Well, yeah,
I got a mean hook shot. I'll hit you with the spin move. I can even hit a couple fadeaways on you if you're not careful. I got some post moves.
Wow. Okay, so Mitch has some skills. Okay, all right. You learn something new every day, folks. And then you got Utah. Utah has the low post presence. They got I think his name's Procol or something like that. I think he's like from Scandinavia or something, and he's a 7-footer and he can play. And he has post moves and he can send shots back and he does a little bit of everything. Now he doesn't act necessarily dominate a game like he's going to put 25 and 12 on you, that kind of thing. But he's going to make life tough for you. And I watched Utah and Arizona this past weekend play, and he was making life miserable late in the game for Arizona. And Arizona has some post guys that can play a little bit, but he was sending shots back. He was D'ing up pretty well, making, Tarczewski for U of A, kind of struggle to get a shot off. So, Utah and Oregon, I could see in the Pac-12 final. You got now everybody's kind of high on Cal. It's kind of funny talking about a Berkeley team being high. But
hey, now.
I know. Hey, now we're not talking about Colorado just yet, folks. But Cal may have one of those kids that may get the player of the year. But they're still, to a lot of people, to me especially, I'll get to see Cal this weekend play in person, so I'll have a little bit better of an idea of what they're all about. Now, watching them play on TV, they beat the crap out of UCLA. They've beat Oregon. They've got some wins, and they could play the spoiler role. They could upset some people in the NCAA tournament just because maybe people will take them a little lightly and be like, "Oh, you're from the Bay, you're California, okay, whatever." But just once again, just nothing where you can just hang your hat and go, that team's going to win the conference tournament, and that team's going to go at least to the round of 8, in the big dance. You got Arizona. If you haven't seen Arizona's big man Tarczewski play yet, you got to see the kid play. He's not getting 25 and 12, but he's getting like 10 points, 15 boards, and like 3 or 4 blocks a game. And he looks like a volleyball player out there. And he has that kind of volleyball player upper body look to him. And he can dominate pretty good. But once again, Arizona doesn't have the go-to guy. They lost a lot to the NBA. I think Sean Miller's like one more bad call against Arizona away from having a heart attack, or like one more team storming the court after they beat U of A to tick them off. Colorado, I'm telling you, watch out for Colorado. They got a bunch of seniors on the team, a senior heavy team, and the seniors can play. They have a kid, I believe his name is Josh Smith, that is leading the team in points and rebounds, and certainly could end up getting Player of the Year honors for the Pac-12. But he dominated ASU last week. But I mean, everybody's dominating ASU. But I mean, I think that's where it ends with USC on the bubble, depending on how their weekend goes against the Oregon schools this week. So it's going to be interesting. Their tournament starts next week as well. It starts on the 9th in Vegas, which I always find funny. It's in Vegas. Yeah. Wow. It's in the MGM arena.
Wow.
At the casino. Yeah.
That's big time.
Dude, like, as much as college basketball or college sports makes such a big deal out of kids betting games and, point shaving, all that kind of thing, let's hold the tournament in Vegas at a casino. Yeah. Okay. What could go wrong? Okay. You know what I'm saying? It's just the contradiction to me is just rich.
Yeah. But we're used to it though with the NCAA. We're used to that contradiction.
I think that's what their middle name should be. Yeah. The one team that has surprised me this year out of the conference, in terms of not maybe living up to the type of players they have, is actually USC. I saw them lose to ASU, which shocked the what out of me. They got 4 guys over 6'10", 6'10" or bigger. They're all athletes. They all can play on the block. They can run up and down the court. They got guards that can shoot. And they're 8-8 in conference, 19-10 overall. I don't know. They have Andy Enfield. Remember him from
Oh yeah,
from that Florida school. It was like Phi Slamma Jamma 2000 style, whatever. And but I don't know, they haven't lived up to expectation with me after seeing. I was like, when I saw the lineup card, I was like, wow, 4 guys, 6'10" or bigger. They all play. They don't all start, but they all play and they can play. And it just shocked me that they are in the spot that they're in. The team that some people say is on the bubble is my school, Oregon State. They play the LA schools this weekend. They have to sweep the LA schools to even have a shot at the NCAA, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's the NIT for them, and maybe make a little bit of a run in the conference tournament. But once again, it's Oregon, Utah, Cal, Arizona, Colorado that I see for sure getting in, with USC, depending on how they do this weekend and the conference tournament. The Pac-10 is – the Pac-10, holy smokes, I'm going back to my childhood. Pac-12, the Pac-12 is just – to me, they're just down this year. So we'll see what happens. I don't see any of these teams that the Pac-12 has when they get into the tournament making a deep run. Maybe Oregon or Utah maybe get past the round of 16. But I don't know. I just think when most of these teams from out west here get mixed in with a team that has a low post presence, it's going to create problems for them, because like football, we like to run up and down the field in football and defense be damned. Basketball, we got a bunch of tall, skinny guys without real big post presences. So, we'll see what happens. I don't know.
So your thoughts?
Go ahead.
Well, you just mentioned that you think the Pac-12 is down this year. Do you think that's a result of Arizona not being at the top and being, clearly the dominant team of the league? Or do you think that's just a combination of all these teams kind of having off years?
Yes and yes. It's one of those things. I mean, when you think of Pac-12 basketball in recent years, even going back to the 90s, you think of Arizona. I mean, Arizona has to be, if it's not the first team out of the mouth of mentioning Pac-12 basketball, I mean, it's the second one. They have the brand name. The other team I would say would have the brand name would be UCLA, but I mean, they're so pitiful this year. It's like Bruins. Who are they? Like, where are they at? But I think it's just the lack of talent that, and I don't really want to say that any of these teams don't have talent. I mean, they have talent, but they don't have talent that people go, wow, look at that kid. There's no Ben Simmons, kind of kid. There's no Valentine kind of kid, or anything, anything like that. So, it's, like I said, it's kind of like the football portion, of the Pac-12, where they just beat up on each other, and who's ever standing at the end is standing at the end. And so we'll see, how it goes up in Vegas next week. So the A10,
the A10,
let's go back out east here.
I just mentioned this before we came on here, because I think it'll be an interesting tournament, an interesting conference tournament for them. You look at some of the teams at the top of the conference. You're talking about St. Joe's, VCU, Dayton, St. Bonaventure, George Washington, even a Davidson and a Rhode Island can cause some havoc there. And I think the conference tournament is really anybody's game out of those, let's see, 2, 4, 6, out of those 7 schools that I just mentioned, and particularly the first 5. They've all beaten up on each other. They've all got pretty similar records and pretty similar resumes as far as all the different sort of rankings. These basketball rankings, first of all, are way out of control. We're trying to rank however, like 400 and however many D1 college basketball teams there are. And really it doesn't it doesn't mean much until you see them play each other in a tournament setting like this. So I'm just really looking forward to seeing these teams go at it. It's a group of teams that you probably have heard of if you're a fan of March Madness, but you probably don't know a whole lot about them. Dayton has had a pretty good season. They've been in and out of the top 25. They've hit a bit of a rough patch in the last couple of weeks, losing some conference games, but they're going to be right there. I think that's a team to watch. Obviously, VCU, Shaka Smart isn't there anymore, but they've still got that reputation of being a very hardworking team. St. Joe's is interesting because they seem to come out of nowhere every couple of years and have a good season, this being one of them. And St. Bonaventure's is just fun to say because they're the Bonnies. So
Bonnies. I guess that has to be an East Coast thing.
You never heard of the Bonnies?
No, I've heard of the Bonnies, but to say the Bonnies, I mean, dude, you say that out west here. That I don't want to mention where you're going to end up, but yeah, could be ugly.
But yeah, the top half of the A10, I think is just really interesting, and I'm going to be looking forward to watching that conference tournament. That one starts, let's see here, March 9. So March 9 is going to be a big day. A week from yesterday, all these major conference tournaments will start, and a lot of eyes will be on TVs trying to figure out who will get through the conference tournaments, make it into the big dance, and people will be watching to help them fill out their brackets. So I'm excited. I mean, this is the time of year that everybody seems to gravitate to college basketball. College football, people watch year-round because there's only so many games. With basketball, it's a little bit different. You got teams playing 30-plus games in a season, and it's hard to follow a basketball team with all that's going on. Just in sports, you look at Super Bowl, spring training is starting. You got the NFL draft to worry about, but all that seems to take a back seat come tournament time, and I'm just excited. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now let's talk about the Big East. Now, the Big East is not the Big East that I grew up with
not
George
even the Big
Sand.
East I grew up with.
Exactly. And, I miss the days of Ewing and Sleepy Floyd and, Mullins and Walter Berry and, Syracuse with the Pearl and all that kind of stuff. And just teams just beating the crap out of each other and just intimidation, a little trash talk. And that, to me, that's, if we could go back to that, that would be great. But what do you see for the Big East tourney this year?
You look at the Big East, there are two teams, maybe even three. You got Villanova, Xavier, and Seton Hall, who are at the top of the conference. Villanova has been in or around the top 5, I believe, just about all season. Xavier's been one of the more surprising teams, I'd say. Didn't hear a whole lot about them coming into the year, but they've shown everybody that they can play with just about anybody. Seton Hall has done good work as well. They're maybe on a different tier. I wouldn't quite put them up there with the Villanova and the Xaviers right now, but they're obviously a dangerous team too. Then you get into Creighton, and the three interesting teams that I'm going to be watching come Big East tournament time are Providence, Butler, and Marquette. These are three teams that each of them have 8 wins in conference. Providence and Butler are 500 in conference, so they have eight losses as well. Marquette is actually below 500 in conference, but they've got big wins, and they're teams that can come out, and on any given night, they can give the Villanova, the Xavier, the Seton Hall a run for their money and even end up beating them. So as far as the Big East tournament is concerned, I'm expecting some havoc. Really, I think the middle teams there are poised to pull off some upsets and really shock some people.
All right. So you were mentioned Butler and Providence and Marquette. where do you figure that they're going to go in terms of seeding?
In the big dance?
Yeah, in the big dance. Or do you think they get in?
Yeah, I think they all get in because the Big East has that brand name. So they're going to get the benefit of the doubt over, a team from the Pac-12, like we just said. Maybe Marquette gets the bump over USC just because of the competition that they've had to go through all season. As far as seedings are concerned, it's tough to say. I guess just off the top of my head here, I'd say anywhere from 8 to 12, in that middle of the pack sort of range, because once you get to 13, 14, 15, 16, you're talking about the smaller mid-American, not mid-American. What am I thinking of here? Mid-major. The smaller mid-major teams that won their conference tournaments maybe didn't have such a great year, but they won their tournament, so they get in. But in those three, Providence, Butler, Marquette, you're looking at solid teams who maybe don't have the wins, but they have the quality to get the wins come tournament time, I think.
All right. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Let's see. No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Yeah. I mean, this is one of those years where when you fill out a bracket, Martha from, HR is going to win because she's going to pick just like the color of the uniforms.
Yeah.
Just to me, there's not one dominant team.
No, and we touched on that a little bit earlier this week, and I'm sure it's come across throughout this podcast. There are a ton of good teams in college basketball this season, but I don't think there are really any great teams that you can say, yeah, those guys are the kings of their conference. They're going to win it easy, and they'll be a number one seed, no doubt. Obviously, you're going to have 4 number one seeds, but I think this year it's just a matter of the top seeds being just slightly better than the next tier of teams. There's not a whole lot separating tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Pretty much anybody in the top 25 right now can beat anybody else in the top 25 right now.
I would absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. So, hey, tell everybody where they can find you.
Find me on Twitter at GreatGatsky, GATZKE. Find me on Campus Pressbox, and find me at MitchGatsky.com as well if you're interested in Detroit sports-related topics. I post a little something on there every once in a while, so check me out.
Nice. And you can find me, Mike Wilson, at campuspressbox.com as well, talking all things Pac-12. And you can find me on Twitter at Pigskin Opinion. Don't ask me to spell that. But you can also email me at mike.wilson@campuspressbox.com. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a little shout out to the Mesa High Jackrabbits, who won the Arizona Division I state title on Monday night, 51-48 over Sunny Slope High School, and one of the best high school games I have seen in a long time. Defense for Mesa, and some timely shooting gets them another title for their well-cluttered gymnasium of titles. So big shout out to the Mesa Jackrabbits. So for Mitch and myself, we will see you guys next week. Have a good one. Good night, everybody.